Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today on the show, we've got our new friend Caroline. How you doing?
I'm good.
All right, so we're going to start out describing ourselves. So I'm Jerry. I've got brown hair and brown eyes, and I've got my headset on, and I'm wearing my Don't Forget Flint t-shirt with the plastic water bottles on it. Flint ain't fixed. It's got a long way to go still. I'm up in my office at the Fledge and my studio up here. How about you, Caroline?
I have long, wavy brown hair. I am fair complected with freckles. I have blue eyes, and I am wearing a cowl neck, hand knitted alpaca sweater from Peru that my sister brought back for me. So this is a very special sweater.
I've got an agreement with Tante, the restaurant. Every time someone says Peru, I give them a plug. So what's up, Jose? So is there art up on your wall? Is that your art, or is it?
So this is actually our logo. And my sister, who brought me this sweater from Peru, she does a lot of fiber art. So she made this for us using our logo. And so we have this amazing custom art piece for.
That's awesome. Would you describe your logo? Like, what is it?
Yeah, so our logo it's three kind of figures. They're human-like, but not quite human. And the idea is kind of a adult figure with a nursling below it. And then it's three of them stacked together to kind of show those generations that come down, and that this is something that's passed generation to generation.
And is that a new word for me to learn, is nursling? I mean, I know what it means, but I don't think I've ever used that word in my life. So
it might be what I made up.
Sounds perfect. Let's talk about you and your projects, and the logo will start to make a lot of sense in a little bit.
Okay. I'm Caroline. I am from the Lansing area, so I'm very, very local. My parents both graduated from Mason High School. They bought the property that they still live on, thinking we'd go to Mason, but we all went to Okemos just because where we were, right? K through 12 at Okemos, and then I've lived in the Lansing area pretty much since then. I moved to Colorado for a year and a half and came back. So I'm 35 now, living in the Lansing area, and I am the founder of Next Generation Lactation Service. So that is what I'm here to talk about today. You want me to go in more about that, or more about myself first?
Well, let's talk a little bit about yourself. So, you graduate from Okemos, and now you're doing lactation services. Did you have a job? Did you work somewhere, or, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've worked a lot of places. In Okemos, I'm one of those people who I feel that I was under stimulated in school. So I was not smart. I graduated with a very low GPA. I couldn't really, do much. And I wanted to take a gap year, which was totally fine. So I took little things here and there and stuff. And then as I became an adult, I started to really find that I'm actually very smart. And when I enjoy something, I dive right into it and try to find everything out about it. So then I slowly got into, I ended up doing my bachelor's degree in community services because I knew I wanted to support people, and I love people. I used to get in trouble at school because I would talk to whoever I was sitting next to, but it was literally whoever I was sitting next to. So I became friends with everybody because if you were next to me, I was going to talk to you. And so I just love people. I love hearing people's stories, hearing where they come from, stuff like that. So that's how I ended up with the bachelor's in community services. With that, it was really more just to get a bachelor's, though. I mostly waited tables, bartended. I worked at community mental health for a little while. So I've done a lot of little things all over the place.
Yeah. So now you're into lactation, and tell us about that. How'd that come about?
Yeah, so that came about. It's actually, I was realizing this morning, next Tuesday is my son's 7th birthday. So this just came about 7 years ago. I had my son, and I did have him at home. So I had a home birth, and I was really naive. I really thought, I'm having an unmedicated home birth. Breastfeeding's natural. It's just going to happen. It's going to work. And it didn't. So I was in a lot of pain, and I had to feed my baby all the time. And in pain, it was really difficult. So then I was seeking help, and the first hurdle was the fact that I had a home birth. So everybody's like, oh, you go back to the hospital, but I didn't have a hospital to go back to. So then it was like, okay, well, what do we do? Those of us that don't use the hospital for our birth or things. So I used different community resources and things, but what I really found is that we are really lacking a community resource. And so I said, well, I can do it. And so I started my journey of becoming an IBCLC, which has been it took about 4 years to get through the entire thing.
And IBCLC is?
So that's International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. We say IBCLC because it's a mouthful.
Yeah.
It's kind of the top tier of lactation assistance. So I have 14 health science credits that I've done. And then I have 90 hours of breastfeeding specific knowledge, training. And then I had 1,000 hours of one-on-one experience with women before I could sit for the board exam. And then I have since passed that board exam and have the business.
So how rare is that? Are there a lot of you in the world, or?
Not a lot in the world, not a lot not really. In the Lansing area, there's a few of us. There's a lot in the hospitals and things like that. And that's one of the things that's kind of difficult. We really kind of cover that piece of the hospitals and right away for moms. But the journey of breastfeeding can be really long. Like for myself, my older son, he nursed for 3 years, 9 months, and my younger son, he nursed for 4 years. So that 24 to 48 hours of help is great, but there's a long period of time afterwards that many things can come up and stuff like that. So there's a lot of IBCLCs in the hospital who are RNs and things like that, but there's a lot less of us community IBCLCs. So in the Lansing area, there's me and my business partner, Natasha Sagel, and she is the first Black IBCLC, community IBCLC in the Lansing area. And so she came, she trained with us. That was really important for us. And we helped her get to that point. And then this last year, my mom was my original business partner. And in the last year, she's wanted to retire since she started. So she was able to actually retire, and Natasha was able to take over her portion of the business. But that is a goal of ours, to have more IBCLCs in the community. There are 2 other community-based IBCLCs. I just want to give them plugs because they're amazing. Laura Spitzfaden, she has paved the way for all of us in the Lansing community. We love her. She's amazing. And Abby Mullins, she was in Chicago for a while and she's come back. So we do have a few of us in business. They always say, who's your competition? But we see each other as colleagues more than competition.
Hey, I compliment you for that. I always love that. So, you talked about that you have a Black employee or a Black partner. And I can't say IBCLC. Okay. I will not get that down before the end of the show. But that's so very important to have people of color that are providing healthcare, because this is healthcare, right? Mm-hmm. To other people of color in maybe not in every instance, but in a lot of instances. I love that you're looking at the view of other people and the other world views that we have and doing something about that, because I think it's important to restore equity in healthcare.
And especially with breastfeeding, I had somebody point out to me this week, which I thought was a really important aspect to think of it from, is that, in some ways, white people have kind of stolen from Black people this, we had wet nurses that were enslaved women and things like that, and they weren't allowed to breastfeed their own children. They had to breastfeed the white children and things like that. So a lot of this, it's you pass this down generation after generation, and we stole that from our Black and Indigenous brothers and sisters. And so that's a big piece we are especially passionate about in our office, that we really want to see more and more Black and Indigenous providers and kind of taking back the ownership of this ancient knowledge that was passed down, that we stepped in and put a stop to. So that's a huge part of our mission, is to get some more equity and have not everybody look like me that does this job.
That's awesome. And let's take a moment and tilt back towards your logo and just remind everyone that, passing generation to generation, and the nursling, yeah. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Now the logo makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So what are some of where are you at? What are you doing? How do you help people? What happens when they need your help? Things like that.
Yeah, so we're located. So we do have a physical location. That's where I'm at right now. We have a very beautiful building. We are inside. There's a local nonprofit called Willow Tree Family Center, and so they own the building. And then we are one of their sponsors, and we get space in their building for being one of their sponsors. So it's this great collaborative. There's 2 home birth midwives that see clients out of this office, as well as a massage therapist. So it's this nice community coming together of all of us. And the building is a building that it's actually behind us is the School of the Blind. And this was the original headmaster's house for the School of the Blind. So it's this old, gorgeous home with all of these funky little things in it.
Now I know exactly where it is and exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
So, what else?
Yeah, so we see people in a variety of ways. So we now offer 3 different types of services. So we offer virtual services since 2020 because of the pandemic, and we offer in-clinic services, or we offer in-home services. And we have a variety of prices for those. We currently accept you pay out of pocket, and then we provide you with what's called a super bill, and that you can submit to your insurance so that they can reimburse you for our services. So that's kind of our newest model of the pay. And then when people come and see us, we really just sit down and we go over whatever is going on at their point in their breastfeeding journey. I've said before, kind of the IBCLCs in the hospital, I think of them as kind of like triage IBCLCs. They're trying to get baby fed in the very beginning. And those of us in the community, we're more like OT IBCLCs. So we're figuring out, are you working? Who is in the home with you? How many other children do you have? What barriers do you have? And then how is it going on top of that? And what challenges are coming from that? And is there anything we can fix from that? So it's really kind of sitting down and making a plan with hand in hand with our moms. They are leading everything. So I don't say, oh, your goal is to be breastfeeding exclusively. I never say that. I say, what's your goal and how can we try to achieve that? So we have a variety, a lot of our moms are exclusive breastfeeders. We have exclusive pumpers where they just pump the breast milk and feed it by bottle. We also have combination feeders where they do feed formula sometimes and they feed breast milk sometimes. And so we just kind of address whatever issues are coming up. And there's a lot of issues that can come up. And I also want to encourage moms. It's common to have issues. So a lot of people think, oh, like I did when I was so naive, oh, it's natural, so I can just do this. But I always say to people, walking's natural too, but it takes us a long time to learn. So breastfeeding is natural, but we need to learn the pieces. We need to know what it's supposed to look like, how it should do these things, so that we know when there's a problem or something that's not going right, so we can try to address that. I actually just read recently that we've even found, it's been so prevalent that there's been issues that there's ancient Egyptian text about if a woman does not have enough breast milk and what to do. So this is ancient history that we've been passing down.
Well, what are some of the problems? Because I wasn't thinking doesn't have enough breast milk. I was thinking like the interaction between the baby and the mother, or the nursling and the nurser.
Yeah. I would say the most common thing we see is latch issues would be what we call them. So it's common for moms to have pain, and a really bad old wives' tale that is sticking around is it's going to be painful for a couple of weeks and then it gets better. It's not true. It shouldn't be painful. If it's painful, that's a sign that your nipple is in the wrong part of baby's mouth. So it's actually being injured the whole time. And so we need to figure out, and it is a complicating piece because I have the nursing mother, and then I also have the nursling. So there could be something going on with the baby, or there could be something going on with the mom, and then figuring out those 2 pieces together. So a lot of times it's latch. Undersupply is not super common, but it is an issue that we run into. I can just say, so there is a condition that it's very rare, but some women have, that they aren't able to produce enough milk. And I just want to shout out to all my mamas who have been that, because they work their tail off. Like I've never seen anybody work so hard for anything. Like I've seen those undersupply moms. So just shout out to them. They do an amazing job. And then oversupply is another thing, which it's really common in our society, you know, bigger is better. How could you have too much or things? But if the baby's at the breast and the mom has a very, very large supply, it can cause the baby to have a lot of gas and upset tummies, or sometimes they'll spit up a lot more and then they'll need more milk because they spit up too much. So a lot of different issues. And then sometimes it's just scheduling, I'm just trying to figure out, I'm going back to work, or, you know, things like that, or I'm taking my kid to daycare, and how do I prepare the bottles? How big of a bottle? Things like that.
So how many, I don't want to ask how big your market size is, but like, how often does this happen where somebody would need your services? And when do they, you know, everyone's going to try to Google it first, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably a big competitor of yours, that first Google and then the article and then live with the pain for 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
What is that trigger that gets someone to call you, that it's, you know, it's the right time to call you? And probably they shouldn't be Googling. I understand that.
I mean, Google does end up being good because they get frustrated because they're getting every answer. So that's the thing about Google, is you can find whatever answer you want. But typically it's one of two things. It's either that they have a friend or family member who says, don't wait, just go in, go get help. Or they get to a point where they're at complete desperation and they are like, this is my last ditch effort. I will go and try this and then I'm done, because it's intense. I mean, they're feeding their babies 10 to 12 times a day, 24 hours a day. So it's the biggest job you really could be doing. And so if it's not going well, it really adds that pressure. So it typically comes with them being at just their wit's end, which is also why in our office we have tissues all throughout, because it's very common for our clients to come in and have a little cry release, and then we can move forward and make a plan and stuff.
Do you help them work through that, kind of the mindset issues too? I
do. That, I would say, that's what makes our practice unique. That's also what led me. So I have a lot on my plate, as you know, Jerry. So one of the other things that I have been led to is I'm in my Master's of Social Work program right now. So I'm at MSU for that. And it was really, I had a client who was a social worker who said, you know, you're doing social work. Like, that's what you're doing right now. You're counseling and stuff. And it was like, wow, you know, we've really attached lactation to nursing, but it's not. This is a mental health piece. You know, these women are in crisis and these women need support and they need that. And so I've shifted and now I'm going for social work, and I'm hoping to be able to expand the services we offer so that we can start having more counselors and things like that to help women through the postpartum period. Because even if breastfeeding is going great, it's a big life transition for everybody involved. And so having support through that's important.
Remind me in a second, I have 1,000 questions for you, because I want to ask this one real quick before I forget. Is there a correlation between like having problems with lactation and postmortem depression?
Postpartum depression?
Postpartum?
Yeah. There is. You're good. I was like, wait a minute. There is a direct link. So that's one of the pieces, and kind of where we're trying to get we're kind of to a place where we have done a ton of studies and done all these things, so we know how amazing breastfeeding is, why it is vital, and all these pieces. So the mental health piece is a big part of it. And that's something we talk about in our office a lot. A lot of times people see breastfeeding as just food and water. And it's not just food and water. There's connections. There's brain synapses that are making connections in there. There's bonding. There's just so much more to it. Which also, having that piece, like I mentioned before, sometimes we have moms that can't produce a full supply. Oftentimes they can still have a nursing relationship. So they may feed so they have the food and water for baby with the formula or things like that, but then they put the baby to breast to suckle afterwards and to fall asleep on mom. And then they still have that bonding time and they still have that connection and they don't lose that piece to it. So definitely a huge connection. They've even shown that if we raise our breastfeeding rates, our postpartum depression will go down.
So another reason your work's so important. Do people come to you or do you go to them sometimes too?
We do sometimes go to them. We do offer home visits. I personally, I've found that I really like the clinic visits better. And there's a few reasons for that. One of them, we can see more people being in the clinic because they're coming to us. So we're not running around town and having to do all of those pieces. So that's one important part of it. But the other piece is I found that if the women have to get here or the families have to get here, they're motivated to do it. They're putting in that time and energy afterwards versus if it was an easy, like, oh, it's just free. You're going to come to my house. Sometimes they're not as invested because it's just kind of like, oh, and sometimes it's even like, oh, my mother-in-law wants me to do this, but I don't even really want to. So they're just trying to appease the people around them. So I really enjoy the clinic visits the most. My business partner is actually the one who usually does home visits because of that. And then we added the virtual visits as well. And I was really nervous about those because I thought, well, I'm not there. Like, how can I help if I'm not physically able to show the moms and things? And it was helpful for me to remember that's not the vital piece that we have. It's that encouragement and that reassurance of, nope, you're doing, the moms know what they're doing. They know how to do it. And they just need to be reminded, like, no, you got this. And so I really found the virtual appointments are way more impactful than I expected. And so that's a really cool thing to find.
Awesome. So I've had on the show talking to people about like period poverty and things like that. And there's stigmas with problems that, like, if only a woman's having it, then us men are gonna just stigmatize it. I mean, it happens, right? What are the stigmas around, well, breastfeeding in general? There's a lot of them, I'm sure, but just lactation problems that we need to be mindful of, and us as a community, we can help young mothers or new mothers or lactating mothers.
And I will give a plug. One thing I am very not good at, there are two. So we do say breastfeeding. It's what I'm most comfortable with and things. And everybody I have worked with has been a mother and has identified as a woman. But there is chest feeding as well. So I do want to point that out, that not everybody who breastfeeds, and I am not very great at that. Like I said, I've worked only with moms. So the breastfeeding really has. But we do have people in our society that chest feed as well. And now I went on that tangent and lost my thought. I'm sorry.
I guess there's probably stigma around this.
Yeah. And so the biggest thing with the stigma is kind of like, people are uncomfortable with breastfeeding in general and stuff, but there's also this level of like, well, but there's formula. So why does it matter? Like, the baby can be fed. And there's a lot that we've had issues with where it's like, well, we don't want formula moms to feel bad. And it's like, and formula moms shouldn't feel bad. Everybody needs to do what is right for them. But I think that everybody should be able to make that as an educated decision. So I read an article recently that was really helpful for me to put it into perspective, and it compared breastfeeding issues to erectile dysfunction, and how if a man comes in with erectile dysfunction, the doctor will do everything in their power to fix this, and it's seen as a medical issue and all these things. And if somebody comes in with breastfeeding issues, it's so common for them to say, oh, just go to formula, it's fine. And it's not seen, our breasts, our mammary glands are made to feed babies, and our babies are made to feed from us. So if something isn't going on right there, there's something we can fix there. You know what I mean? Like we should be seeing this as a medical issue. And so that's where we come in, because we have this expertise and things like that. And our expertise really is farther beyond than what people imagine. So people always talk about pediatricians and OBGYNs and nurses and things like that. And these are amazing people that have tons of information, but they do not have a ton of information on breastfeeding specifically. And I do think in our society, we try to push it back onto them, like, oh, they'll take care of it. They'll take care of it. And, their plate is overflowed, and we can take care of this, and we can do this in a really soft way with our clients, working hand in hand with them. So that's really my goal, is to have this be normalized of, oh, you just see a lactation consultant if you need it, and it's available to you. So that's my ultimate goal, because I also feel that as a community, we should be supporting this so that we have a stronger community in the future. And it's really common. I hear all the time, well, she chose to have children, so it's up to her to come up with all the resources and all of these things. And what I argue is that's fine, but in the future, don't you want somebody to be able to work at Meijer and to do all these jobs? Our community is bigger than that. And so if we don't have a healthy community, then we don't have that future. So by investing in our breastfeeding, we're investing into our future.
See, I was just about to ask you a question that I think you just answered. And I was going to preface it with, it seems like your mission is really bigger than lactation, that it's really about a healthy community. And then you just went and said that. You wrecked my whole question.
Sorry.
How would you summarize your mission?
I mean, support is really our mission, that people have the support that they need. So we hear time and time again, oh, I was told just to go to formula. And that's not supported. That's not, that was just told to just stop. And one of my biggest health pieces that I have found fascinating about breastfeeding is that they've done studies to find out we've learned a lot about breastfeeding in the last 15 years. And so there was this sugar that's in breast milk that humans don't digest. And they were like, why would the body spend so much energy to create this super complex sugar that the body doesn't even use? Like, what was the point of this? They found out that it actually feeds the good bacteria in the gut. So the breast milk is like it's not just for the baby. It's even to create this healthy, which makes sense for why we have better health outcomes, because they have this stronger, healthier immune system because it was made through the breast milk. And so those are the pieces that the formula can fill a piece, but it can't replace. There's some things that nature just does better than us that we just can't recreate.
Yeah. I want to show you something Kimberly said. And then, so Kimberly Levon said, so pro, Caroline, your business is going to stay. Do you notice how I skipped over your last name? Because I've never asked you how to pronounce it. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Passariello.
Passariello. I can remember that.
My husband taught me it as, it's like pass the jello. Which he's not going to be mad at me that I did that, because he may be watching right now.
So, is there something you do every damn day to push that mission forward?
Honestly, just connecting with people is my piece. Whenever I start to feel, a lot of times we start to feel let down, or like, what are we doing? Is this even worth it? And it feels like anytime that happens, it's usually a client or something that comes in and says something. I had a client the other week who was talking about, she just had her second baby, and she was talking about, oh, in my labor, I was thinking of you and these things you said. And it was like, to be like thought of in these sacred times I'm going to cry. Like it's such an honor. And so that's what drives me, is just sharing that with other people and then seeing them share it. It's the people. That's what keeps me going. And they bring me back up anytime that I start to go down.
You promised me you'd cry during the show.
Like, crying the whole day.
So thanks. So Katie Kiter, my daughter, and I have benefited from Next Generation Services, and they helped us have a successful 4-year nursing relationship. So another kudos to you.
Yeah, we love Katie.
So we daisy chain these shows together. And yesterday on the show, I had a young lady who her and her partner are moving from Long Island to Lansing. They actually get here on Monday. And she's got a question that I'm going to pass to you from her. And her question is, and obviously because she's moving from Lansing, it's the question she came up with was, what's your favorite thing about Lansing?
For me, my favorite thing about Lansing is honestly the diversity and community. I've grown up here, and I remember when I was young, I feel like Lansing was scary and you don't go in to do these things and stuff. And just to see, it's this bustling, amazing city, and I love to eat. We have amazing restaurants all over. All Twos is my favorite restaurant ever. So we just have these amazing local resource restaurants, especially, but I'm seeing a lot more art and things like that. So really just that enrichment of the community is my favorite thing.
They see a vision of an art renaissance happening in Lansing, and they want to get in on it.
I could see, I honestly am hopeful that that's where we're going worldwide. We all know that there's in my opinion, there's just not enough jobs for everybody in the world. Like we're too automated at this point. And so to me, it's time to switch. It's time to go back to the arts and to the community and to coming together. I'm pumped for it.
Someday when you have time, when you're done with One and All and you're done with your masters and all of that, you should read this book, Utopia for Realists, where they talk about what leisure could look like if we did something like what you just said, and that it would be an arts renaissance. So again, agree with you. Tomorrow on the show, I've got Pastor G.J. Knox from the Poor People's Campaign. And what question would you like to pass to him?
For me, so I have a motto that I live by. It was on a shirt. They make shirts. It's live the life you love the life you live. So I would just ask, how do you incorporate living the life you love and loving the life you live every day?
And I always flip this question around. So would you answer that question for yourself?
Yeah, for me, I guess I don't play into the societal pieces that don't fit for me. So I don't work a 40-hour-a-week job. I piece together part-time jobs and things because it's most important for me to be with my family. And so I've had many years of feeling like society pressures me into thinking I should be more and more busy. And so I try to really just focus on my friends and family. And I have this amazing village that everybody would love.
Now you definitely need drop out a master's and read this book. Hey, did you want to give a plug for One and All?
Oh,
you
yeah.
Want to say how it's going or anything?
Yeah, it's going great. So I'm in the I always say it wrong. It's One and All. I always say all in one for some reason.
I think it's because all for one, you know.
Oh, yeah. So the One and All program, this has been a year of transitions for me. Jerry, here's where I'm going to go into too much. I actually started my master's program and all of these things because I had a brush with cancer and I had a hysterectomy. So I know I can't have any more children. And my children were both going to be in school full time. So I said, all right, now's the time. I'm going back to school. And my business partner and I looked at each other and we said, we need to be making this business go. So we just started applying for what are things that are available to us. And so the One and All program showed up and I applied on a whim. And then I made it through a couple of sessions and it got to the point where I needed to submit a video. And Jerry, you might not know this, I actually emailed a num and was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I was at the last of my semester. Like, I just have a lot going on. And the num was like, I hear you, but just turn in your video. You're like, just turn in the video. You'll probably get picked for the next one. It's fine. And I got picked for this one. And it was like, all right, you know what? The universe is putting these opportunities in front of me and I need to take them. And it's been more of an opportunity than I could have imagined. Just talking to other people, even connections. I was talking with somebody the other day whose son is going in front of the parole board and is going to be being released from prison soon. And I was like, oh, I have a connection for you. Let me get in contact with her from the program. So even just those types of pieces, it's amazing to bring all this together. The resources are amazing. You guys all who run it, I'm behind on my webinars, but I always just feel so supported and I know I'm going to get it done. And it's just support. It's a wealth of support. And then there's financial at the end, but the support is the key.
I never miss an opportunity to get a plug in. So that's Katie from Power and Passion that you're talking about.
Yes, I
am. And that didn't seem too bad. I mean, going too deep into anything. Are you healthy now?
I am. I had precancerous cells from HPV, which is actually very, very common to have HPV that can lead to that. So I do encourage all women, once you're over 30, know your HPV status, and then make sure that you are getting your regular pap smears according to that, because the type that I had, it was a very invasive type. So I'm very, very fortunate that we caught it early. And I always say 30 years ago, it probably would have been what took me out. And so this early detection is life-saving. So all women, please, please make sure you are on top of your regular exams.
Well, our community's stronger because you're still here. So we're glad you're here and can't wait to see how strong and healthy it gets because of what impact you and and even your colleagues and other businesses do for the health of our society.
Definitely.
Did we forget to talk about anything?
I don't think so.
Got anything you want to promote? Like, how can people find out about you?
Oh, yeah. So our website is lactationservice.com. And we do have a Facebook page, Next Generation Lactation Service. And we do now have an Instagram. I think it's Next Gen Lactation. Sorry, that one's newer, and I'm not in charge of it. But you can find us on all of those. We share tips and tricks and little pieces and stuff like that. You can contact us through there if you have questions. You can also book an appointment with us right online. So you can do that right through our website, lactationservice.com, or through Facebook or Instagram. Should have a book now button. So you can do it all without talking to a person.
All right, so I estimated what your names would be on all of those, and people will find it. It'll be easy. Plus, I'll share it at some point too on the Fledges page and things like that. So what would you like to take us out with?
I feel like the theme is togetherness and strength and community.
It's good enough for me. Good enough for you?
Good enough for me.
All right, everyone. Every day at 2 p.m. We'll have Pastor Knox on tomorrow, and we will see you later. See you, Caroline. See you, everyone.